Let's do an end of the year 2024 camera comparison between the iPhone 11, 12 and 13. Starting off with portrait shots. First difference you'll notice right off the bat is the type of blur effect implementation. The iPhone 11 blurs everything evenly, while the 12 and 13 have a gradual blur which is more reminiscent of a traditional camera. Not a huge deal in my opinion, but the 12 and 13 do look slightly more professional. In terms of edge detection, all phones are also almost identical. A few misses here and there, but nothing that stands out. The color reproduction so far is also really good. I did have some issues before with the iPhone 13, but in these recent captures, it seems to have left them behind. One thing to note is that the 11 and 12 in certain photos do tend to have a certain level of softness around the subject and the background. The 13 has it too, but not as pronounced as the 11 and the 12. The iPhone 12 in this photo completely messed up with the clock in the background, and so did the 11. Next up are some non-portrait shots. These shots are where all three iPhones fall apart. The 11 is the only iPhone that is closest to real life. It produces better colors and photos than any other phone. The 12 is just straight up bad. It seems to have some sort of a filter on the photos. The 13 is not that bad, but it does over brighten the subject's face and I don't like that look. Next up are random daytime shots. The photos taken with the main sensor are also very similar. The colors, dynamic range, contrast, shadows, etc. all seem to be an exact match. Now this is to be expected. The main sensor is the same in each of these iPhones. I do like the colors of the iPhone 11 and 13 slightly more than that of the 12, but it's only in a couple of photos. Other than that, there are no major differences. Like I said, this is to be expected. While nailing skin tone, edge detection and other things in portrait shots is tough and also dependent on the photo processing capabilities, day-to-day objects are pretty much the same, and that's the reason these iPhones produce almost identical photos. Another interesting comparison I wanted to do was with the zoom capabilities of the iPhones. While these phones are limited by the absence of a dedicated zoom sensor, I wanted to see if there are any differences at all in the processing of telephoto shots, and there isn't. The shots are pretty much a replica of each other. The 13 ever so slightly seems to be a tiny bit more sharper, but not so much that it seems to have a clear advantage. While the photos do look similar, I must say that I'm amazed by the iPhone 11. It consistently produces great shots with excellent color accuracy. Now I get why so many people prefer these older gen iPhones. Moving on to the video from the main sensor. While this is a 4K 30p video, all phones can do 60 frames as well, and the 12 and 13 can also do Dolby Vision HDR, with the 12 limited to 30 and the 13 limited to 60 frames. Here all iPhones produce good quality video. I think the 12 is not as good as the rest, while the 11 is still decent. Something you can notice if you pixel peep is the stable footage of the iPhone 13. It is due to that sensor shift OIS. Another clear advantage the 13 has is its cinematic video feature for both the main and the front sensor. If you are looking to buy an iPhone to create content with, I think the iPhone 13 seems to be an obvious choice. With that, let's move on to some selfie shots. Probably the most similar sensor on these iPhones are the ultrawide and the front camera. The front camera is basically unchanged between the iPhone 11, 12 and 13. As such, the shots are also nearly identical. Once again, in a couple of shots, I don't like the colors of the 12. The contrast / the black levels are not at the ideal levels. The 11 and 13 are close and produce really good shots. Now since the shots are similar, so are the videos. Not going to show much here, but all phones can do 4K 60p HDR video. I think the results really look nice on all iPhones and can't really pick either. Next up are some ultra-wide shots. Just like the front camera, the ultra-wide is also copy and paste in these iPhones. Hence the ultra-wide shots are an exact copy of each other, which is to say the shots look very similar with good color accuracy and dynamic range. There are minor differences in terms of white balance, but nothing that's too major. Once again, the iPhone 13 does tend to over brighten the shots with people as the subjects, which looks horrible, but it only happens in a few cases. Other than that, I don't see anything worth pointing out since these shots are so similar. Honestly, if I remove the naming convention here, you wouldn't even be able to tell which shots were captured by which iPhone. Personally, I find the ultrawide sensor to be the least used camera for me, but it might be something a lot of you like. I feel a dedicated zoom sensor is much more useful. And finally, let's deep dive into some nighttime photos and videos. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the iPhone 11 shots are not that great. That's cause it does not have nighttime photo support for the ultrawide or the front camera. So not really a fair comparison, but we'll still see how the main sensor does. While the shots do look nice, I must admit the quality of the photos isn't that great. They are grainy and start to fall apart as soon as the light decreases. Only the main sensor produces shots that are slightly more detailed. And the story continues with the video as well. All phones suffer greatly from lens flare. The lighting in this video was plenty, so the iPhones do seem to produce respectable results. And that is it for this camera comparison. As evident from this video, these camera systems are basically identical and have very few differences. While one of these phones might look good in certain areas, the other phone seems to do better in other areas. If a good camera system is all you want in an iPhone and nothing else matters, you could get the iPhone 11 and 12 and save some money. The iPhone 13 does have minor advantages, but nothing that warrants you to spend the extra money just for the cameras. Well, let me know what you think about the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you all soon in the next one.